So this week I really wanted to talk about PTSD or PTS because I've been hearing a lot from a lot of people that ask me how to cope with flashbacks, how to cope with, those unwanted memories that just show up out of nowhere. And I can understand why, because that could be a torment, like a mental agony that you don't know when you're going to have those flashbacks. They just come uninvited. So I made sure that I added this in my program too. And I'm going to talk about PTSD, PTS, the symptoms, and bring some awareness to it too, and some do's and don'ts. And it's called the rewind technique. How can you move forward and find out how this technique works? Stay tuned. Created by Dr. David Muss. And like I talk a lot about in my videos, it helps a lot when you find someone who had it, who went through it and overcame it. So that's the kind of people you want to find to overcome any problems. I know I wasn't finding any answers on coping with my mood swings and depression, and I was diagnosed, and I ended up finding out that I have a dual diagnosis, and etc. So I ended up finding a lot of things that help, and which I share, and that's why I created my program. If you're interested, you can check out blossomyfeelings.com/mentorships, and you can explore how my program can help you if this is you. So what's PTSD? So the author basically goes between PTS and PTSD because the criteria for PTSD is very harsh and very subtly. He mentions that it's leaving a lot of people out of the criteria that could have PTSD. So he goes between PTS and PTSD terms. So what is PTSD? It leaves you with distressing memories that haunt you day and night without invitation, without you being warned. Not everyone develops it, and when they experience trauma, especially because people expect you to recover from the bad experience, so you feel like an outcast, like, why am I not overcoming this? Why is this still bothering me? This shouldn't be bothering me anymore. And you realize, with time, that people's sympathy starts to fade away because you keep having the suffering after a long time, after the event happened a long time ago, to get tired, right? And they start to disappear. So you start to suppress and deny your existence of having this. And you choose to not treat it, or you treat it inappropriately. Especially because of fear, because your fear of those memories coming back, that they will start to haunt you. You're afraid. You feel like you're going to open a can of worms. You don't want to go there. And these painful memories also, you're afraid that will make you feel weak or out of control. So there's a lot of that gets in the way. So I'm just going to go real quick on the criteria. It could be stressors, things that remind you. You try to avoid anything that is similar to what happened. Sounds, anything. You experience an intrusive recollection, images, dreams, flashbacks. You try to avoid, and you might resort to numbing, hyperarousal. And it can get in the way of your regular function. And why is it not diagnosed most of the time? A lot of PTSD awareness came about thanks to the veterans because they were clearly experiencing it, but it's also another part of the population who could have it. So there's a lot of denial, and a lot of people try to suppress it and ignore it. But also, it's not only the person who was traumatized who gets traumatized. It could be someone who saw someone being traumatized, go through something very traumatic, or someone who got there after it happened and saw the after effect of something devastating happen. And as you know, I always love to mention the science behind things. So what's really happening is that whatever traumatic event happened, it didn't become a memory. And check out Dr. Muss's book if you want to learn more about PTSD and this technique. I do teach it in my program. So basically he explains that the science behind it is because when the event happened, because it was so traumatic, the fear center didn't allow it to become a memory. And because it didn't become a memory, because a memory you can recall at any time you choose to. But since this didn't become a memory, it just shows up when it gets triggered. That's why you're tormented by it. So basically the rewind technique is very effective because it's based on the science of the trauma. It basically, the hippocampus and the amygdala, who are in control, like the gatekeepers, didn't accept it to become a memory. So the rewind technique, what it does is that it fools these centers to the gatekeepers let that memory enter and become a memory. What this technique does is that tricks them, like the gatekeeper, the hippocampus and the amygdala, to let this memory slip in and become a memory. And once it becomes a memory, it can come out, in and out, because the officers, like Dr. Muss calls them, in the hippocampus and the amygdala, these officers, the gatekeepers, allowed it to come, so they'll be okay with you recalling it as a memory. So now that it's a memory, you have control over it. It will stop the flashbacks. It will stop just showing up. He also mentions that something that I know is true is that it's a very simple technique, and because it's simplicity, it might be frowned upon and might not be accepted, or this belief things have to be hard and take months of therapy. But sometimes when you know the science of things, you know exactly how they work. That's why there's a lot of like skepticism around it, but it's so simple and it works. And if you're like me, when you have tried everything and nothing's working, then you have to have a very open mind and try things and give yourself the opportunity, because you never know what could click for you and work. Especially if you suffer from this, because it could really change the person. It could really affect everything. Simple tasks can become very hard to do. So warning, if something traumatic happens to you, don't believe that you have to act like nothing happened. That's why it's so important that you feel your feelings and you react at the moment. If something traumatic happened, react with the appropriate feelings at the time. It's okay if you need to scream, cry, and allow yourself to experience a traumatic event, because that's where these flashbacks get created, because you were suppressing those emotions. So suppressing is never the way to go on your emotional healing journey. Some do's that he goes and mentions is express your emotions, share your grief, review the experience within yourself and others. Allow yourself to be part of a group that cares or has been through it. Some don'ts is don't bottle it in. Don't avoid talking about it. Don't expect the memories to go away, and address it. The sooner, the better. Don't forget that I also offer free resources. Below, there's the links for my top 7 personal development books, a quiz that it gives you a customized guide to match your answers. And if you want to learn more about my programs, you can visit bossofmyfeelings.com for more emotional intelligence tools. I can't wait for Halloween. Is it Halloween yet? Is it Halloween yet? Is it Halloween yet?